Now, before we get into the whole Kanban thing, let's talk about how you probably organize your tasks for your personal life now, which, if you're like most people, is some sort of a to-do list. Now, the classic to-do list, generally how it starts, is we just write down a bunch of the things that we think we need to get done. This could be for just today, which usually scales reasonably well, but if you start adding in things like everything you want to get done this week or maybe this year, it can get a little bit overwhelming. Here's an example I found online of a somewhat humorous to-do list that I thought I'd share. Now, unfortunately, to-do lists just don't scale very well, and while they're okay for a small-scale task list, ramping them up to support a longer term, or even just the various areas of your life, can be very difficult. Where's the prioritization? Where's the context? Which task out of all these should we choose to be working on right now? Which tasks are we blocked on and waiting on someone else? Tomorrow, do I want to start over and write a new list? Every time I want to reorganize this piece of paper, how am I going to do that? Well, one way we can fix that, of course, is we can just change the medium. Maybe instead of writing it out loud on a scrap of paper with some coffee stains on it, we fill up a whiteboard with all the tasks that we need to accomplish, instead of using dead trees. Now we can easily erase items, re-add items, draw boxes around them, etc. Now, personally, I love whiteboards, but as task lists, they tend to fill up pretty quickly. And as they do, you end up having to rewrite them, reorder things, make the font size a little bit smaller and a little bit smaller every time you rewrite it. And of course, prioritizing is still a challenge, and looking at everything on the board all at once can also be kind of overwhelming. Now, if you're watching this, you're probably a software developer or at least a software professional, IT professional of some sort. So the first thing you're going to think of is, why would I want to use paper or a whiteboard? I've got Outlook. I've got a program for that. So yeah, there's always Outlook or similar task management tools. With Outlook, you can add flags, you can add due dates, and all kinds of other bits of information to your tasks, or you can store the tasks in a database or in your favorite bug tracker, depending on what it is. And again, though, the sheer number of tasks can often make this overwhelming, and the limited support for prioritization and the addition of context can often make this less than ideal. It's better than nothing, and it works for many people, and having the task kept somewhere other than just in your memory often provides a significant reduction in the psychic burden that you're carrying around trying to remember all the stuff you need to do. Now, there's techniques you can use to optimize Outlook, like getting things done, and these can certainly help. This is something that, if you're an Outlook power user, I certainly recommend you check GTD out. However, Kanban offers an alternative, lower-tech approach to the problem, and one that scales up to include your spouse, your family, and your team much more effectively, in my experience. Now, with a Kanban-based system, it's possible to see the workflow and steps that each task has to go through at a glance. And of course, being able to visualize this dynamic flow helps enable us to remove bottlenecks and roadblocks and keep things flowing through the system. You're going to find as we keep talking about Kanban that this whole idea of flow keeps coming back, and that's the thing we're trying to optimize. Looking at a task list or any sort of a to-do list doesn't generally give us any way to visualize the flow. It just gives us a static view of the stuff that is not quite done yet. So here's a quote from the book Personal Kanban, and I remember when I read this thinking, well, tell us what you really think. So they write here, to-do lists, the last bastion for the organizationally damned. They're the embodiment of evil. They make us feel inadequate and dismiss our achievements as if they were waste. They must be stopped. So how are we going to get rid of these to-do lists and replace them with something better? Well, first we're going to talk about the rules.